first time making a video?
My first time with a Marine.
Oh shoot. Yeah. We're pretty much all just like John Cena in that movie, Marine.
John Cena. I like me some John Cena. This is Mark Bell from Super Training Gym, the strongest gym in the West. Here today with Alan Thrall, who's going to put me through some mobility drills so I can become more mobile-ist.
More, better, or mobile.
Something like that.
Yep. All right, so first things first, I'm not a physical therapist. I'm not a sports massage therapist. I'm not a myofascial release expert, and I'm not going to pretend to be. So you want an in-depth, if you're really messed up, you need to go see a professional. If you are looking for an in-depth explanation as to why you lack mobility in your hips, or if you are looking for an instructional video on how to grow your biceps, go somewhere else. But check out Kelly Starrett's YouTube channel maybe. Check out Becoming a Supple Leopard. I'm just going to give you some simple stuff. My videos are pretty basic, pretty straightforward. I'm unfazed by Mark and his silly antics.
He's untamed, ladies and gentlemen.
So I'm not going to get, I'm not going to turn this into an anatomy class. I'm not going to talk about your quadratus lumborum and your tensor fascia latae, your propindius, because Mark said if I start using big words, he's going to cank this whole video and kick me out. So I got to keep your attention here. So what we're going to do is talk about
my small quads.
Yeah. Well, let's see. They're pretty good. Yeah, they're pretty good. So they're dense. Might be small, but it's hard.
They're dense, baby.
So we're going to talk about tight hip flexors. A lot of you guys might have said you have hip flexor pain. When you get to the bottom, your hip flexor might cramp up, or you might have a sharp pain. And the reason that is because your hip flexors are tight. The reason they're tight is probably because you've been sitting a whole lot. When you're seated, your hip flexor is in a shortened position like this, and if you're there for a long enough time, your body's going to adapt to it. So you stand up, now your hip flexors are still in that shortened position, and you have what's called anterior pelvic tilt. You walk around like this with your butt sticking out. So this can also cause a lot of back pain because your tight hip flexors, your back is arched, and it's tight. So I think this is why Silent Mike has a lot of problems with his lower back, because he wears that big old heavy fanny pack, and he walks around like this, and so it gives him back problems.
So what's in that fanny pack?
I don't know, nobody knows. Anyway, so what happens is when you're in that anterior pelvic tilt and you try to sit down, you try to squat all the way down, you're probably trying to keep your back tight. You might be hyperextending your lower back, and you're further facilitating that anterior pelvic tilt. You're making the problem worse. So when you go down, your hip flexors are so damn tight that they cramp up, and you get that sharp pain in your hip flexor.
This is going to be great for me. I've had hip impingement on this left hip probably since like 2008. So it's been in a lot of pain for a long time. So this is much needed.
Good, good. So again, this is going to be some simple stretches and drills that I like to do before I squat. So that's all I'm going to do is share with you. So the obvious solution, real quick before we start, the obvious solution to fixing your tight hip flexors is to stop sitting so damn much. Are you familiar with Pavel Saltolin, whatever?
Saltolin, yeah.
You know, yeah. He's a kettlebell strength coach. He has a great quote. He says, if you sit or stand, I'm sorry, I'm already fucking the quote up. If you sit or lie down for 23 hours a day and you stand for only one, even if it's spent working out, which demand do you think your body will more readily adapt to? So basically that explains why, that's in short, to keep it on topic, if you're sitting for 8 hours a day and you're stretching your hip flexors for 5 minutes a day, you're gonna get some temporary relief, but it's never really gonna fix the problem. So I would suggest breaking up your sitting on the hour, every hour, maybe do some stretching. So let's get to it. Let's stretch out your hip flexors. So one of my favorites is just to do a lunge stretch. You're not gonna do this, Mark, but you just do a lunge stretch where you sit your hips forward, you reach up, and you reach away from that hip flexor to stretch out this whole hip flexor.
I'll do it. I'm here.
So now let me tell you why this can be a problem. When you're stretching your hip flexor like this hip flexor here is in a shortened position. So it's tightening up, and then you switch, and you're right back to, it just goes back and forth. You never catch a break. Now this hip flexor is tightening. So what I want to do is, I want to lay you down, dick in the dirt, ass up, and I'm going to have him stretch so that both his hip flexors are relaxed when he's doing it. So this helps to have someone put the band on for you. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to put this here, I'm going to pull this back, and I want you to reach this over your shoulder. And I want you to apply tension as you need. So what you're going to do is, try to pull your heel to your butt. Oh no! As best you can.
Trying to give myself a freaking
Boston crowd. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna lift the knee up.
Holy smokes.
And put the foam roller underneath like that.
Hey now.
So while he's stretching, this hip flexor over here is relaxed. And then he'll just do this for a couple minutes. And what you want to try to do is sink your hips forward towards the ground, and you want to try to squeeze. The only reason I'm doing this drill is so I can touch your ass. You're gonna try to squeeze your ass cheek as hard as you can. Hold it for 5 seconds, and then relax. Just keep doing that while I talk. So what this is doing, squeezing your glute, is gonna help relax that hip flexor on the other side. It's very similar to someone with lower back pain, a tight lower back, and that distended stomach. By doing planks or maybe stomach vacuums, you relieve some of that pressure off your lower back. So it's kind of the same concept. So squeeze the ass cheek, sink the hips forward, and then as you get more and more flexible, you just roll this a little bit higher up, and you're just trying to get that knee up. So this is it, and you can lay down, watch YouTube videos, watch the power cast while you're in this position. And that lunge stretch that I showed you can be uncomfortable to be underneath for a long period of time. Mark will confirm. So this is a lot more comfortable. It gives you a reason to lie down.
I like it.
All right, cool. Now let's move on.
All right.
There. All right, so the next stretch is the best hip mobility stretch that I know of, and it's very, very sexual, okay? So what you're gonna do is, I call it the froggy style, okay? So what you're gonna do is, we'll see if you can do this. I'm gonna let you try, and then if you can't, I'll get in the position. So I want you to turn this way, and I want you to drop down on your knees, and I want you to put the inside of your feet flat on the ground.
Okay.
Okay?
You already got me lost.
Okay, so what you're gonna do is, I want you to push your knees out and try to get on the inside of your knees. I know if you have some real problems with it. So what you're gonna do is, you want your legs here at 90 degrees. So right about there. Right about there, I just hold it. Now, what you wanna do is, while keeping your back tight, you're gonna try to sit your hip back towards the warehouse doors. And you just sit your hips back like that. And then you just hold that position and you try to relax. Don't tense up, try to fully relax. And you want to keep your lower back neutral, don't round it over. And so this, now when you get into if you have a wider squat, you get into the bottom position, it's going to feel much more comfortable.
This is evilness.
So this is it, this is called the froggy style. Cool.
Filipino Thunder, come over here for a second, buddy. How does that? Marcus does kind of a similar stretch quite often.
Yeah.
Let's see how he looks into it.
Oh yeah, it looks way better. Yeah, that's really, really good.
He does a stretch pretty much every day.
Nice.
Every day.
That's it.
I haven't really seen it, like that with the feet pointed out. That actually,
yeah,
although it hurt, it took a lot of pressure off of where my hip actually hurts.
Right. Yeah.
All right, get out of here, show.
All right, and then what I would do is, after all that stretching, I want to get a little bit of movement in the joint, in the femur and the hip joint. So it's just very simple. You'll just grab here, and you're just going to do some leg swings. And what I want you to do is completely let loose with the hip flexor. Keep your lower back tight. Don't hunch over like this. And all you're going to do is just swing. If you can get, if you were to grab a plate, stand on, some clearance.
Yep.
You're just here, and I maybe do 10 swings. Just get some movement in the joint. Pretty simple. So I would do that for probably 10 to 20 swings per leg. And this is after you stretch.
It's really hard for me to let it go backwards.
Yeah.
The leg doesn't want to.
Have you seen the ankle weights that like sprinters will use? If you had something like that, some sort of ankle weight, that would really help. It's kind of like a donut on a baseball bat when you're warming up. So that's all it is. You kind of want to imagine it's just a pendulum swinging on its own. You're not trying to use your hip flexor to bring it forward. So that's it. You have a hip circle here.
Mm-hmm. Starting to feel a big difference in that hip already, to the point where this hip wants me to do the same thing to it. This hip's like getting angry, it's not getting any love.
All right, so before we talk about the I usually do this with a band. I've actually never used it. I'll do it with a band, so. Let's do it. I should probably go here. All right.
Damn.
All right, so next we're gonna do some, I'll show you some glute bridges. So like I talked about when he was in this position here with the foam roll under his knee, squeezing that glute, flexing that glute is gonna relax some of that tension, ease some of that tension in your hip flexor. So what we're gonna do is some glute bridges, and I want you to use the hip circle, and that's gonna help you keep your knees out. I see a lot of people doing glute bridges with their knees together. I think you're kind of defeating the purpose. Any external rotation of your knees or of your femur is going to help you engage your glutes. So you're going to pull that tension outward as you do a glute bridge. So lay down here. I want you to take probably a deadlift stance. It doesn't have to be a wide squat stance. Toes slightly out. Keep that tension on the hip circle. You're here on your upper back. All you're going to do is get your hips forward and squeeze your glutes just like you were finishing a deadlift. I don't want you to think about just driving your hips up, because that will tend to hyperextend your lower back. So all it is just squeezing your glutes up while pulling out on that hip circle when you're coming up and when you're coming down. Don't ever relax this position. So I might do 15 to 20 of those. And just the activating your glutes will really take a lot of tension off your hip flexors.
You like to do this before or after a workout? Mainly?
I would do it before. I would do it before really any workout. Squats especially, but deadlift, it's a similar motion.
Okay.
And even when I bench, if you're in that arch position, you know you have to warm up.
We talk about that all the time. Here. People kind of neglect the fact that your hips need to be warmed up and your hips need to be mobile to bench press, because we're trying to drive our feet to the ground and trying to be arched up.
Right. Yeah, and if your hip flexors are tight and you're in that bench press position, your back is gonna take a lot of work, and then your back cramps up while you bench. So it's just a nightmare. So loosen up the hip flexors, and it'll make for a much smoother arch when you bench.
When I do some squats tomorrow, I'm going to incorporate this. I'm going to mess around with this and see what it does for me. This is Alan Thrall from Untamed Strength. Strength is never a weakness, and that is it from Super Training Gym. Later. Leave us a like or you're off the team. Leave a comment down below. And if you want to watch other videos from the strongest gym in the West, click right here. If you want the best lifting gear in the game from howmuchyoubench.net, click over here. Right here.